All right. Oh, Julie and Julia. That's how, there we go. Now we have others. It's going to be all the J's. Jen, Julie, Julia. How is it going, everyone? We're going to give it a couple minutes for everyone who is coming on live to hop on in here. I am just going to open up our chat on the sidebar to make sure that everyone can see what I'm writing. It also helps me to understand, if you can see me, you can hear me direction wise. So if you can do me a favor, if you're coming on, if you could just pop a hi, hello, even maybe let me know where it is that you're coming in from. Hi, Donna, seeing lots of familiar faces and names here. That would be great. So just in that chat bar, hi, Vienna, coming in from Newmarket. That's where I was raised. North York, Brenda, Kara from Virginia. Awesome. Keely from Cambridge, Rebecca, Bessie, Stephanie, Tara. Okay, lots coming in now. Amazing. So good. Says Josh, but it's Alex. Hi, Alex. All over. Awesome. Okay, so as we are giving it a couple of minutes for everyone to come on into the room, you have a couple of options tonight in terms of how you want to take the information in. The first way is you can literally just sit back and take the information in. The second way is that you might sit with a notebook and pen. That's typically how I integrate anything new that I am learning. And it doesn't have to be formal notes. Sometimes it's just a word that I'll jot down that kind of connects and resonates with me. Other times it'll be doodling, right? Like just kind of drawing something out that helps me to go back and remember. Now, the great thing is you're all going to get the recording of this as well too. So if there's anything I'm talking about tonight that just feels like it goes way over your head and you saw my mouth moving, but you did not understand what was coming out of it, it is all good because you'll have the recording to be able to go back to. And then you can also move through it at a bit of a slower pace. Claire from Australia, amazing. Claire, what time is it there right now? I always forget. I did live there, but I feel like it's like a 13-hour time change. But I feel like it's maybe very early in the morning for you, 9:30 a.m. Oh, that's not bad at all. Washington, Saskatchewan, awesome. Okay, all righty. Okay, so we're 2 minutes after. I am going to get going. So for anybody who's listening to the recording of this that's not in here live, just know that when we do get to the Q&A part, you will not be able to submit your Qs because this will be a recording that you are listening to. And so if you've ever joined me for any of my webinars or masterclasses before, I flow for a while and deliver you a lot of what I feel is great information and high quality information. And then I'm going to open it up for some questions. And so if you read the info when you signed up for tonight's webinar, which I'm doing this in partnership with Genuine Health. And I do actually have Amanda and Piper that are here to, if I'll be talking about different things and mention a link or mention a product or whatever it might be. And they're here to help to just pop it into that chat bar. Because when I get on a roll, sometimes I don't even recognize that there's things that's flying into that stream. Or if you have questions and they're coming in quickly and I can only answer so many at a time, they'll repin them for me when we get to that part. So if you see somebody else that's posting stuff, that's not just another woman that's listening to the call. That's actually somebody that's trying to help me on the side there. So there's Piper and Amanda that just said hi to everybody. So in terms of housekeeping, we're using technology. If my face freezes, if something happens, if you freeze, don't worry, just try to refresh your page, pop back in, do what you need to do. I'll do the same on my end if it happens. If there is a small creature that jumps on the bed, her name is Charlie. She likes to just move in and out around me when I teach, so she might join us. Other than that, if you read what the actual description of tonight's webinar was about, talking about why digestion is the foundation, about the cycle of your hormones, movement as a woman and all of that, I'm going to teach you something about me if you don't already know it, which is when I'm asked to do something in that moment, I can say, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. But then as the days and the weeks go on, and I'm fielding questions from women that are coming in, whether it's through Instagram or our inbox or Facebook, I can't ignore the questions and the new energy or the current energy that is happening. And that is what I'm going to deliver tonight. So what I've done is I've actually compiled what some of the biggest questions or concerns are that women are dealing with right now in regards to their health, where for a lot of women, they feel like they have done a lot of work. They've been steadily learning more information and applying new strategies for their health, but they're still feeling stuck in these core areas. And that's really what I want to deliver tonight. I completely believe that those who either sign up or show up to something like this are going to get the information that maybe they didn't realize that they needed to hear, and that there's always some level of a nugget of wisdom that we can take away from this. So if you are here to, just trust where the conversation is going to go, I am not going to be presenting you anything. I am not doing a slideshow. There is no PowerPoint. I don't have awesome graphics to show you. I'm literally going to have a conversation with you, woman to woman. So if that sounds good and you're ready to roll, just give me a yes or whatever lets me know that in that chat bar, and then we'll get flowing. Awesome. Okay, good. I don't even actually know how I would respond if someone was like, no, I got nothing. I don't know. I'd probably just keep going and doing my thing. So, okay. I want to start off with this. I want to first talk about, so we have about an hour together. Now, an hour for me is I'm going to get through kind of the core content of what I want to teach you in that period of time. And then I'll leave a buffer on the other end if we have, any additional questions that we want to get through. So I know for a lot of you, it's Eastern Standard Time, so it's a little bit later where you are versus where I am. And some of you are coming from different areas. So we'll be respectful of your time, get the core stuff in, and then I'll leave an additional kind of 10-minute buffer at the end for some questions. So when I went to my community and I was asking about what do you feel right now as a woman that you are struggling with the most in terms of your health, hands down, the number one thing that came back was digestion and inflammation, like without a shadow of a doubt. And then from there were also issues around energy and adrenals. And so I'm saying issues around adrenals because for a lot of women, they don't actually understand or know if it's truly their adrenals that are the issue. They just feel exhausted, burnt out, stressed and burned out, kind of going back and forth. And a lot of symptoms that they feel like, well, it must be that. Or a lot of women will say, well, it has to be my hormones are out of whack because these are the symptoms that I've got. I don't know what else that would be. So digestion and inflammation were the number one. And then energy and adrenal issues were definitely number two. And then cravings and weight gain, kind of came in there behind. And there really is this hierarchy of where all of that begins. So for instance, if we have cravings and we have inflammation that we're holding on to in our body, that doesn't just start because we have a lack of the thing that we're craving to eat. Meaning if you crave potato chips or you crave cheese or you're craving chocolate, it's not that you have a deficiency of that food in your life, that your body is like, I need to have that thing. It is typically that there is a deficiency of minerals or of nutrients or your body's ability to actually be able to break down what it is that you are eating and then be able to actually get the nutrition out of it. Sometimes we're craving those things because we are feeling a certain way. There's a lot of feeling right now in the world. I describe it as like an ocean of emotions, right? There's a lot going on, a lot that feels like it's out of our control. And when we're in our home and we're in our kitchen or we're in our pantry, that is an area where we can reach for the thing that we know is going to make us feel good in that moment. That's going to give us that hit of dopamine and make us feel good and kind of numb out the rest. Some of us might do it with too much exercise. Some of us might do it with wine. Some of us might do it with smoking, might do it with shopping, whatever it may be. But every single one of us, we have this coping mechanism that we're using and we're applying to our life. And in the moment, it is giving us this false sense of balance and like it is feeling good and it's actually supporting our system. But the reality is that most times that is actually the thing that is trying to get our attention. And it is our body and our system's way of saying, I need help on some level. And I think it's safe to say right now, I meet with my team every Wednesday morning. So I have like my core team and then I have all of my coaches. And we were having this really deep conversation about it today because we are women that are running a female-led company that are then working with all women who are feeling and going through all of these different things in their life. And what happens for so many of us is that we learn to compartmentalize. We learn to compartmentalize not only what we're experiencing and going through, but all of the symptoms and the dis-ease that comes with that. So, for a lot of you who are dealing with the digestive issues and the inflammation issues, you might have horrible gas and bloating and reflux and joint pain and all these things that are happening and going on that feel specific to your digestive system, but you still get up and do what needs to get done every day. You still get up and do your job. You still get up and do the things with the kids. You still get up and do what's expected of you. And that's what I mean by compartmentalizing and like suppressing it or not managing and dealing with it. And so I want to bring light to some of that, because I look at things from a few different perspectives. One is it's conversations with women, like explain to me how you are feeling. The other is looking at it from a functional perspective of looking at tests. And I will tell you, I work with a lot of women where if we look at their test results, they don't look like they're doing all that bad. They look like they're kind of doing fine. And I'm sure every single person here has had an experience in their life where you've been told by someone that like, you're actually fine. Given a couple of suggestions and like, go and do that and things are all okay. I just don't believe in the fine. And I'm not here to feel fine. I'm here to feel great. And I'm here to feel connected. And I'm here to feel aware. And I'm here to feel grounded in my body. And so when I see a woman who has fine results, my eyes and mind go deeper. What are we missing? What is going on? Because you might not actually think you have any symptoms or anything that's happening and going on that requires you to do anything. You might just be here because it's a free webinar and you're like, I like to hang out with other women. I like to just hear new information. Maybe she'll share a recipe. I don't know why you're actually here. But at the end of the day, most people don't think there's two ends of the spectrum, right? Those who are like, I'm pretty healthy. And then there's those that are like, no, there's a lot of things happening in my body and I literally just don't know what to do. I would tell you that the woman who is on that end of the spectrum, where there's a lot of things showing up that are very obvious, a little bit easier to work with than the woman who's like, I can kind of feel something's a little bit off, but again, everything shows up to be fine. And that's where it's like, you've got to go deeper. You've got to do a little bit more of that investigative work. And sometimes what's happening is your body is giving you a slow drip of symptoms, a slow drip of warning, a slow drip of information. So maybe you do still have the energy. Maybe you're not plagued by gas and bloating or, constipation or diarrhea and that all the time, but it happens enough where when it does happen, it's a big nuisance. That's something you need to start to pay attention to. Okay. So we're going to start tonight talking about digestion. I just need to do one thing first, which is turn the light off behind me because it is driving me insane. So give me 1 second. I'm going to stand up and do that. Okay. So it's going to seem like it's darker lighting, but we're all just going to be fine with it because I think halo lights are obnoxious and I can't turn that out in front of me either. So we're all going to be okay with this lighting. All right. So I want to start diving into here around digestion and inflammation. If you can, I'm going to ask you to be interactive. So this is a real question I am going to ask you. If you can just type in the bar for me on the right-hand side, either yes or no to this question, it would be very helpful. How many of you are suffering from what you feel is some level of digestive issues right now? Either a yes or a no. I have yet. Oh, I see one no. Lisa is the only one who has said no. Cindy has said no. Okay, there's a lot of yeses. So I'm going to talk to you about what some of these symptoms or issues could be. So here's the very obvious ones. I've already hit on them: the gas, the bloating, the indigestion, constipation, diarrhea. Okay, those are reflux, that type of stuff. Here are the ones that you may not recognize are also connected to your digestive system, because at the end of the day, every single issue that you have that is out of balance, autoimmune condition, lack of energy, not sleeping well, skin issues, nail issues, hair loss, body composition issues in terms of either weight gain or too much weight loss, insulin resistance, all of that, everything comes back to and is connected to the gut. So you might not realize that all those things I just said are connected to it, or your chronic headaches, or your mood swings, or the fact that at different times a month, when you are going through different phases of your cycle, that you feel like you are a completely different person, but living in the same body. So for instance, a lot of women will describe that when their period actually ends, and women who are postmenopause or menopausal, just stay with me on this, okay? But if you are somebody that has you still have a bleed, you still have a period, a lot of women will say that week after the period, they feel great. Everything digestively is great. All is going well. Coming into ovulation, some women feel amazing. Other women, it is not a good time of the month for them. They'll be bloated. They're going to retain water. They're going to have breast tenderness. They're going to have more mood swings. They are not going to feel good. Okay. And that can last for a couple of days. Then you have women when they get through that phase, that first part of their luteal phase. I'm just going to come in here because I think somebody is unmiked. So I'm going to just mute all. There we go. Where that first part, again, after ovulation, they'll feel okay, digestion gets back on track. And then the majority of women will tell you, if you ask them, that leading into their period, those 3 to 5, sometimes 7 days, really bad gas and bloating, doesn't matter what they eat, everything irritates their system, the bowels change in some capacity. That is a sign of inflammation. Okay. So again, we just get so used to what we get used to. If you need to take a nap after you've had a meal, that is a sign that your body is having a difficult time digesting and breaking food down. We do this thing where we look at food and we determine whether or not it's healthy or it's good for us based on the food itself. And so what I mean by that is you could move through your day and wake up in the morning and have, a really complete smoothie. You could have a healthy salad with some protein. You could have, a snack in the afternoon. Sorry, Marian, I'm just going to mute you because yours keeps unmuting. There we go. And then I just keep hearing stuff in the background. And you could on the level, look at it and be like, these are all healthy foods I'm eating. But what if the healthiest foods are ones that actually irritate your system? What if you don't realize that you actually have a sensitivity to certain things like the spinach that you're eating all of the time, or that you actually can't digest and break down the banana that goes into your smoothie 3-4 times a week, or that it is, lentils that you can't manage, or it's the turkey that you've been eating? What if all the things that as a society we've been taught to classify as being clean or not, whole food or not, healthy or unhealthy, that on a different level, you have to actually ask yourself, do I have the ability to digest and break it down? There's not a day that goes by in practice that I am not working with women, or we as a team, where they will tell us that the food that they eat causes them immense discomfort, yet they still continue to eat it every single day. Why do we do those things? Sometimes it's because of where our core beliefs lie, where our values lie, where our philosophies about what is right and what is wrong lie. When you're choosing from that place, you're already doing a disservice to your body. You are already impacting how well or not you're going to be able to digest and break something down. And you have to, it's like, as a woman, honest to goodness, there's so much unlearning that we have to do with what has been indoctrinated into us about what is right and what is wrong and what we're supposed to do. Because you can take this back, everything health-wise, everything from even how little you were taught about your actual hormones, about your cycle, about the role that it plays in your body, that it's actually not here just to piss you off or for you to become, a mother if you choose to or not, that it plays this massive role in your body. That, when every month's new magazine comes out and promises you a new program or a new smaller waist or a new meal plan or a new this or that, that's not actually education. And the problem now is that we have so much noise as women coming at us, telling us every single day what we're doing wrong and what we need to do that is right. It gets very difficult to actually tap into your own body and understand, what do I need? So how should you be feeling on a digestive level? You should be able to eat and be free of gas and bloating. If you have the odd burp or the odd bit of gas that you're passing, that's not a huge deal. But if you have different pants for when you eat versus when you're not eating, if you wake up and you're like, I wake up, my stomach feels pretty good. And then as the day goes on and you continue to eat more meals, you feel puffier, you feel more tired, you feel more bloated. So many women describe it as like, I have like a food baby by the end of the day. I'm so uncomfortable by the time dinner comes around. There's something going on. Now, what is the something? It could be something as simple as not eating the most healthful food. And when I say that, I mean like a lot of processed food, a lot of packaged food, that you're knowingly consuming foods that are full of things that irritate you. Maybe it's dairy for you, maybe it's corn, maybe it's gluten, maybe you're eating eggs every day and you know that you don't do well with it, but you're focused on protein, so you keep eating the eggs. It could be something like that. It also could be certain supplements that you're using. It could be medication. It could be that you have a gut infection. You know how many people I work with on a daily basis who are suffering from SIBO and H. pylori? And by the way, if you've ever been diagnosed with SIBO, I guarantee you have H. pylori. And if you don't treat the H. pylori first and you go into a SIBO protocol and you don't have results, it's because you haven't dealt with the root cause, which is that H. pylori. It's a bacteria that's very common in human beings. It gets passed through contaminated water and food, through saliva, through fecal matter, and it robs you of your stomach acid. It goes in and it literally takes all that stomach acid and all your enzyme ability. So you can be eating the healthiest food, but you don't have the right environment to be able to break it down. Now, if you can't break down what you're chewing, what you're drinking, what you're putting into a spoon, any of that, how in the world are you getting any of the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, polyphenols, all of the nutrients out of that food? The answer is you're not. And that is why digestion is the foundation of your health. Everything begins in the gut. This is where nearly 90% of your immune system actually lives. If you struggle with your mood and anxiety and depression and the up and the down, you want to work on addressing your gut, because this is where you are producing almost all of your neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine. These are all precursors to other hormones that not only allow us to feel good, but also support our digestive ability. And so it really does pay for you to slow down and ask yourself some of the questions and understand, what are those next steps for myself? Did you go on a trip at one point and get a bad, we'll call it like Montezuma's revenge, or you got sick and you're like, ever since that trip, I've never quite been the same? You know, were you on the birth control pill for a long period of time? That works like an antibiotic on our microbiome. Have you been on antibiotics for a long period of time? Were you on a cortisone cream or something topically that was put onto your skin that bypasses the digestive system and gets right into the bloodstream, and that has impacted? There's so many different factors that can be playing a role in this, but at the end of the day, you want to sit back and really ask yourself, how do I feel? And can I eat a meal, have energy, move on, feel satisfied, and enjoy the rest of my day? And if the answer is no, that's probably the area for you that you want to start to look at. Now, when we talk about things like inflammation, a lot of people will automatically think about swelling, pain, joints, that type of stuff. That's easy inflammation to identify, but that's not all inflammation. Inflammation in the body is literally anything that feels like it has pulled your system into a direction that feels less desirable. Your issue with not being able to sleep well, that is a source and a cause of inflammation. Your inability to be able to have a proper bowel movement and eliminate every single day is contributing and a source of inflammation to your body. Your inability to have stable blood sugar, to make sure you have solid energy and sharp cognition, to have that clarity and that focus, which, ladies, this is so important for you, not just so that you can show up to your job or show up to what's ever required of you. It's so that you can also have a level of certainty around the boundaries you create in your life, which is your number one form of self-care. It's so that you aren't saying yes and signing yourself up for everything, for everyone, and then feeling that level of resentment and then exhausted because you have now overcommitted beyond your capacity of what's actually capable. When you're in a state of inflammation and you're in a state of not feeling well, you lose grip of your ability to start to make those decisions and have that ability to have discernment for yourself. So this is not just about, what we'll tend to do, bring the whole health thing back around to our weight and to our physical body that we see and that we're putting in clothes every day. Your genuine health as a woman is about what is going on inside of you that is literally fueling you and keeping you strong enough to do all of the things that make up the dimensions of who you are, without feeling like you are second fiddle to everyone else or to the rest of the world that's happening around you. That's what I care about in teaching you. So I am not here to help you understand what your macro split is and to help lay out for you the perfect meal plan. I don't know you. I can't tell you tonight what the perfect meal plan is, but what I can start to teach you and inspire you to do is to really dig deep and to listen to your body and to please stop brushing off the things that you know innately in your gut. Listen, there is 100 of you sitting live in this room right now because we maxed out at 100 people. There's almost 1,000 people that signed up for this. You don't just take time out of your night just because. You have to ask yourself, what is that why that's there? Okay, what is it that's brought you into this? What is it you're seeking that you are looking for? And if you know, as I'm talking about some of these digestive things, this is it for you. This is the note you make down. I really need to spend some more time focusing the energy on my gut. Now, some things that you can start to do outside of noticing it is pay attention to, again, like I said, knowing what balances your system and what does not. Ask yourself things like, have you ever tried taking digestive enzymes? Use things like bitters. The lowest cost barrier you'll get to is like apple cider vinegar. I like that for some people before lunch and dinner. If you have SIBO, that may not be your first place that you start because sometimes vinegars can aggravate that. But using digestive bitters, using digestive enzymes, they can help support where your body is lacking to go in and help to break that food down. When we're talking about digestive issues like SIBO or H. pylori, if you've ever been told that you have a bacterial overgrowth or you have candida, yeast, whatever it may be, okay, what is happening inside your body is that food that didn't get broken down, there's not a back door. There's not a trap door. At the end of the day, your body just like opens it up and it's like, let's get rid of the scraps. That is not how that works. What happens is the food will start to ferment and putrefy. It literally starts to rot in our body. And we have certain bacteria. They're called opportunistic bacteria. They're scavengers, and that's how they live. And they go and they feed off of your undigested food. So for them, it is like the best meal ever. And the problem being is that the more undigested food that's available for them to eat, they get stronger in numbers and in power. Now, you all need to have a healthy amount of bacteria, okay? So this is why using things like a prebiotic and a probiotic can be very helpful for a lot of people. Prebiotic fibers, resistant starches, those types of things. So you could do this in a powder, like you could use like a gut superfood from Genuine Health. You could do this with green banana flour. You could do this by incorporating, if you can tolerate them, things like kimchi, sauerkraut. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of kombucha. I'm not going to lie. I find it really gasses people up. And I believe is because it comes with a lot of sugar and because we don't need a 16-ounce bottle of it. We need a shot of it. And so we're just over consuming and that can be an issue. But adding some of the prebiotic fibers in for somebody who has low bacteria. Okay. So it's not always about having too much. Some people can have low. That helps to feed the good guys. It's like seeding the probiotics. And when the probiotics go into your body, you have this opportunity for them to last and flourish. Now, the other thing is women don't realize there's no one probiotic for everyone. And the same probiotic that you need for your body is definitely not going to be the same one that your husband needs or your partner needs or even your son needs. Your microbiome as a woman is different. And so there are specifically formulated probiotics for a woman's microbiome. You do not just have a microbiome in your gut. You have a vaginal microbiome. you have a GI system microbiome, you have an oral microbiome, you have a skin microbiome. And I can guarantee you as the years go on, there's going to be more singular biomes that we find within the human body that then interact with them all. So what we are supporting our bacterial culture with in our body needs to be a little different. For the person who does have a gut infection like H. pylori or SIBO, they actually can't use a multi-strain probiotic in the beginning. They need to use a singular strain. And that's something where you can do specific testing like a GI map test to really understand what you need. But you're going to need to do something, whether it is prebiotic, probiotic, enzymes, in order to support what is going on within your gut and within that digestive system. If you're working with somebody on doing some antimicrobials and eradicating that, it is not about going in and wiping things out. How many of you in here, I'm just curious to know, I'm going to try to break this down to layman's terms as best I can. How many of you have ever heard of something called your secretory IgA? Yes or no? Okay. How many of you have ever heard of leaky gut? Okay, so everyone has heard of leaky gut. So leaky gut, what that is a very broad term. It's like IBS. Okay, IBS is just interesting bullshit. That's all that means. IBS is a kitchen sink term for when there's multiple food sensitivities and unidentified gut infections that are going on that have not been treated. Leaky gut is the same type of blanket term when we're trying to explain to somebody where this is not their first language. Your digestive system, your stomach, has this beautiful container, this retaining wall around it. And it is meant to be able to keep the contents of the stomach and all of the food that your body is working so hard at breaking down, digesting in there until it is small enough to be able to, through osmosis, move its way out, get to the different systems and organs that are needed in your body and into your cells for energy, for health, vitality, everything that needs to happen. When there is injury to this barrier, okay? So whether it's through medication, it's through chronic stress, it's through different products, it's through the environment, it's through the food that you're eating. When there starts to become injury to the lining of the gut, this is your first line of defense. Secretory IgA, so this is like on an immune response. This is what's happening. So anybody who has an autoimmune condition, this is what's happened in your system. You either can have a really high response or a really low response. And what happens over time is that when you're bringing these types of foods or products or things into your body, stress, they start to nick the lining and they start to damage it and perforate it, which means there's now tears and holes. There's now leaks. And now you have certain things making their way in that should not be, and certain things making their way out into your bloodstream and into your lymph system. And this is where your immune system is like, it reacts. It's like, wait a second, this is not supposed to be in this area of our body, in this undigested or in this state. And that's when your immune system now starts to respond to try to protect you. You will not know this is happening in the beginning because it's a behind the scenes action. But over time, when you start to notice, I never used to have gas and bloating. Now I have it often. I never used to get tired from eating. Now I'm always tired after eating. I never used to get reflux. Now I feel like I'm burping the food up that I'm eating. I didn't used to have that. Now I have that. And now it's like the little odd thing starts to become an all the time issue and thing going on. I can guarantee you that first line of defense, that secretory IgA, has now been impacted and has deteriorated on some level. So this is why if you've ever worked with, whether it's a nutritionist or a functional medicine practitioner, and they've said to you about certain foods to eliminate, this is not because it's trendy. This is not because of weight loss, any of that. It's because literally those foods are injuring you on your deepest layer of immune defense. Does that make sense how I just explained that and broke that down? So for somebody who has a compromised gut digestive system, this is not just about being kind of dairy-free, kind of gluten-free, kind of off the green onions that bug me, kind of off the pineapple. You got to be all in for a period of time. Your tissue has the ability to heal really quickly. Within like 120 days, almost every single cell has regenerated itself in your body. But you have to commit. So I was having a conversation with a client today about this, and I could just tell. I was reviewing her GI map and her Dutch test with her. And in the beginning, she was like so excited to see the results. And I could just see her going down as I was explaining it. And as a practitioner, it's tricky sometimes because you're trying to explain what's happening and going on and being honest with them with what's happening. But that is a human being on the other side of the screen, and they're having a human reaction to, in most cases, the thing that they've not wanted to hear. Okay, which is like, this is the reality of what's going on, and this is some of the things that we need to consider doing. And I just said, like, this is a partnership. So the role we have together as like you, the individual, me, the practitioner, here's my side of this relationship. I'm going to show up. I'm going to explain to you what's going on in your body. I'm going to help to give you strategies. And now I'm going to pass the baton to you. Now I need you to actually start to implement. The speed at which you implement change does not need to be right away. It does not need to be in 30 days. It's not to reset. It's 120 days on a cell level of regeneration of tissue. Now, here's the other cool thing as a woman. For any type of change to happen hormonally that involves your ovaries, so think like cyclically, even if we're supporting perimenopause and menopause, because when you go through menopause, your ovaries don't literally like pack their bags and leave your body. They're not like, I'm officially done. They just slow down their production of key hormones. But that whole journey for the signal to go from your brain, from the pituitary gland, to your adrenals, to your ovaries through the HPO axis is a minimum of 90 to 100 days. That means it is a minimum of 3 consecutive months of showing up for your body on that level. It's a season, ladies. So 120 days of that cellular change happening, it is a season. So we hear it and we're like, oh my God, that is so long. Like, I can't do that. I can't do it. And we start to go down the rabbit hole of like, then I have to cook different meals. No one's going to eat that. What about when I go to this social event? I mean, kudos to you if you have a social life right now, high five. But like, people aren't going to make different food for me. And that's it. And so we do this whole thing of, we fight for our own limitations. We fight for our own limitation. I am feeling like this. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I'm like, okay, here's the baton of solution. And then, well, that's not possible for me. I can't do that. And here's the 24 reasons why I can't do it. So you don't want to feel like this. Here's some possible solutions, but you also can't do that. So where does that leave us? Do you know what the answer actually is? It just means we slow the process down. Like, you literally, I actually don't mail people medals or give out stickers or do any of those things for the women who do it faster than someone else. You have to take into account the reality of like, what is the life you're living right now? What is your capacity? How much room do you have to actually start to implement some of these things? But you have to make the commitment to start to chip away at it. And if you're in a really dire place and things are very acute and you have lots of symptoms in that, then that's when I would say, like, you need to link arms with whether it's us or it's someone else, and you need to be all in. And you're going to have some shitty days. It's going to be hard because you'll feel the pressure around you from other people. The other thing is, when you're starting to make changes around digestion, inflammation, hormones, any type of really healthy, positive lifestyle changes, the people in your life who care about you the most, all of a sudden, they're not going to care so much about you because you're going to make changes that might impact them. And so they may try to sabotage. They might question hardcore. Why do you need to do this? Why are you doing it? I don't want to do it. This, how this is going to impact them. And this is where it's like what I'm saying to you about why it's so important for you to take care of your health right now. You have to have the strength and the ability to continue to choose you over and over again. Okay. Okay. So in regards to that with the digestive piece, I think we've kind of, hit home there on that. I just want to, because a private message came in and asked if I can explain why it's so important to poop every single day for so many reasons. Okay. Your ability to have a good quality bowel movement on a daily basis. This is one of your main eliminatory pathways. You have 3 different phases of detoxification that your body goes through. And as women, these detoxification phases are really important because it's how we are also going to detox excess estrogen that could be giving you the heavy, painful periods, the horrible breast tenderness, the exacerbated PMS, the clots, all of those different issues that are going on. And phase 3 detoxification, it's your pee, your poop, and your sweat. It's literally how we move things out of our body. If you have to take, or you have to have coffee every morning in order to have a bowel movement, you don't actually have regular bowel movements. You have assisted those through a form of something that is a laxative and a stimulant. Lanny, the HPO axis is the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. So when women talk about adrenal issues like adrenal fatigue and adrenal burnout, they are the generic name for exhaustion, which is burnout, and stress and overwhelm, which is stress. And what's really happening is it happens in the brain first. So your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland in your brain as women, this is what's getting all the signaling 24/7 about whether stress is real or imagined, whether your body needs to respond, whether your adrenals need to produce cortisol or not, whether the thyroid needs to play a role in this, whether your body should produce enough follicular stimulating hormone to ripen the follicles on your ovaries, and whether or not your ovaries should even respond. Should they ovulate? Do they need to increase hormone production? Do they need to decrease? Is this a month where you have so much going on stress-wise? They're like, I am not that important right now, because you don't need to have healthy ovaries in terms of having a regular cycle in order to live. It's going to not make life feel all that fun, but your body will categorize what is most important when you have a chronic level of stress. So you have multiple axes in your body. In fact, your gut and brain, they share an axis. So for people who have a lot of digestive issues, you'll hear like leaky gut, and then you'll hear leaky brain, because if there's deep things that are happening on a gut level, it's very difficult for you to also have that clear cognition, the memory, the sharpness, to just feel good energetically. A lot of people will say they just have such deep brain fog. That's another thing to pay attention to as well. Okay, so digestively, pay attention, start to think about some of the things to support with enzymes or pre or probiotics for your body. Now, moving into that next category, where women were writing in about their energy and their adrenals, which we've already started to segue there. What are some of those symptoms? I posted a story the other day on Instagram asking, do you feel like you resonate more with stress versus burnout? And the response was actually crazy. And then I did a post, this morning or yesterday morning, about some of the different signs of that could be happening on an adrenal level. And the response to that has been incredible. So the next webinar I'm going to be doing is all around that, because I think women have a really difficult time understanding what is actually going on that level. So if you are feeling a massive level of overwhelm, there's just not enough hours in the day, you're being pulled in so many different directions. You typically are someone who describes yourself as being, like you're very productive. You are the person, you get things done. You are better when you have more to do. You have a type A personality. You're a go-getter. That is a slippery slope. And you can only do that for so long, because as a woman, you physiologically are not hardwired for that. Not every single day of the month. But if that is the life that you've essentially signed up to right now, or just all of a sudden you're like, I did not sign a contract for this, but this is what is kind of in your lap right now, you are going to hit a point where all of the things that made you feel really good and lit you up. Okay. And I will tell you that most women who also love being busy and doing all of the things all the time and being there for everyone, that's how they show up, is like from a place of servitude. They also typically love high intensity exercise because it meets them where they're already at. You take a woman who loves to do all of the things and all of the stuff, and you try and put her on a yoga mat, or like, God forbid, offer her meditation or a walk as a suggestion. Not even maybe. That is lazy to her. That is non-productive. That is a waste of frigging time. But it is actually everything her central nervous system needs. And so I test adrenal function every single day in practice. And I will tell you, very rarely do I see women who sit in the middle. I see the woman who either has such a high level of cortisol production that she is literally buzzing with a frenetic energy in her body all day long. And she lies down at night and is so tired, but literally cannot sleep because her brain is going 50 different directions. And then I have the woman who is literally lying on the floor. And she used to be the woman that could do everything. And she used to be the woman that cared about all the things. And now, okay, I swear, if this is your first time meeting me, I swear. I'm a very intelligent woman, but I swear. Okay. That woman will be like, I don't give a shit about any of the things that need to get done. Like, I'll do them because I'm supposed to do them, but I don't care. I don't care. Okay. That is the energy you get. That's burnout, is when you don't give a flying F. Burnout is just when it's like, it needs to get done. Your list is like this. You have piles all around you. It's like, here's the difference. The piles, when you're in like the cortisol, the overdrive, the piles, you're walking around with holding 7 of the piles to put away in your house. Okay. Like, you're like, I got this. I have toes. I can use those to pick things up. And you're like, you're on it. And then you start to get to the point where you're so angry that there's piles all around. So you're yelling at everyone because they're not your piles, because you're productive. You don't fucking leave piles around. Everyone else around you does. So you're yelling at them. Why do they have the piles everywhere? Then you get to the point where you just walk over the pile. You're like, I don't even care. I don't care if the whole floor is covered in piles. I don't care anymore. That's burnout. And that is the woman who, her adrenals are not producing a healthy amount of cortisol. And it's not because they can't. It's not because they truly don't know how to anymore. The signaling mechanism from her brain to her adrenals has now said, enough is enough. The sky's not literally falling. I'm calling Chicken Little. I am not going to continue to help to produce any more of this cortisol. I'm out. I'm not playing this game anymore. Or the opposite happens, where she's producing a healthy amount and her body is recognizing that there's literally a fire going on in her system, an internal struggle, and starts to deactivate all of her active cortisol into cortisone, which essentially, it's like if you go and get that cortisone cream I was talking about, it is a suppressant. You have a rash, you have something going on, you put it on and it just says, shut up. It suppresses it and it gets rid of it. It does not treat it. It moves it deeper. Your body has the same mechanism, and it's your kidneys that will signal this to the adrenals. If you have so much stress going on, what your body will do is you're producing this cortisol, and your body can literally go in and be like, you need to dampen her cortisol response, deactivate this into cortisone. And you need that cortisol. It's a healthy hormone so that you have the energy, that you can respond, that you can show, that you actually care and you have motivation. But your body is like, enough is enough. And so you'll start to deactivate it and clear it really quick, and you don't have the energy. So when energy is one of the main complaints of women, first thing I'm going to ask her is, how are you feeding and nourishing your body? Is your blood sugar stable? Like, are you actually getting enough food in? I'm telling you, the pandemic I see happening with women's bodies right now is way too much intermittent fasting, way too much calorie deficit. Women are not eating enough for their body. And then when they do go and eat enough food, they're essentially kind of binging and trying to make up for what they've been depleting their body of for so long. So the first thing I'm going to ask her is, are you actually fed enough? Are you well nourished? Is your blood sugar stable? Are you eating enough meals throughout the day? I really love, and I'm going to tell you based on the woman that I attract into my practice. Again, I don't know you, so this isn't a prescription for you, but I will say, I really like women to eat within the first 1 to 2 hours of waking, to start their day off with no less than 20 to 30 grams of protein and a good quality carbohydrate, mainly fiber-based, and some fat in the morning, to kick things off from a metabolic perspective and to stabilize their blood sugar right out of the gates. I like them to have lunch. I like my ladies that I work with to have a mid-afternoon, either mini meal or snack, and then a dinner, and that is it. The reason, and you'll listen to other practitioners who are like, never snack. When you snack, you're stoking insulin all day long. Perhaps, but we want to know the woman we're talking to. The women I talk to in my practice, they go long periods of time without eating, and then they get dizzy, nauseous, headaches, hangry, and they start to devour whatever they can eat that is not nailed down around them. that is a hypoglycemic response. And if you continue with that, that is a ticket to adrenal issues and potentially thyroid issues guaranteed. So when I'm noticing that pattern, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to feed her, and I'm going to make sure that she's having a balance of protein, fat, and fiber at each of those meals throughout the day. Then she can finish eating dinner and have that, time restricted eating window or that intermittent fasting window where she's having, 12 to 14 hours where she's not taking food in. Beautiful. I love it. It's fantastic. But for a lot of women, feel like I need light now, who are doing like a 16/8 protocol, not so fantastic. So when you're thinking about protein, it is the hardest macronutrient to get in for yourself because protein is not something that is like done for you. You have to prep it, right? So you think of like animal sources of protein, and that's going to be like your chicken, your fish, your grass-fed beef, your eggs, right? I'm a huge fan of using things like protein powders and smoothies and things like that, because to me, that's fast food. That can be nutrition on the go, so that when you need to get something in, you can do that quick naked shake of just a scoop of protein powder and some non-dairy milk or some water, or you could actually make it into a smoothie. But again, you're going to get at least 20 grams of protein to help to support and stabilize your blood sugar. When you're just grabbing a granola bar, or you're grabbing, a handful of chocolate chips or whatever it is, trying to, just move on to the next thing, it'll rescue you for a moment, but it's actually going to destabilize you more. And the reality is that if you are, when you're making dinner, you are literally eating everything you're prepping for dinner. So you're having like a pre-dinner while you're making dinner, and then you eat dinner, you're hungry. You needed to get in front of that. You needed to have eaten something probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours before you were prepping that meal. This is where shakes and smoothies can come in really handy. I find for majority of women that I work with that plant-based protein powders do the best for them digestively. So I do really like using the Genuine Health. If you followed me forever, you'll know I've been using it for so long. I alternate, different sources in that, but I really love the organic fermented. Now, if you're somebody that has the SIBO and you can't do any fermented, then you would not use the fermented one. But I love to have that on hand. And you can add things like collagen. And in the morning, if you're somebody that's doing, a matcha or an elixir, or you're having a coffee in the morning, upgrade it. Add a scoop of that collagen in. It's going to help the lining of your gut. It is going to give you 9 grams of protein. It's going to satiate you more. It's going to make your coffee less acidic in your body. These are like the tiniest little simplicity tips. Honestly, there is no dairy, Stephanie, in that protein powder. So that it's complete, it's vegan. It's totally plant-based. And for some people who can't do plant-based, then you would look more towards doing something that is maybe beef-based. I'm not a huge fan of whey. And let me explain to you why, and you can do this for a test for yourself. Here's my thing. Anything I shake in a shaker cup or I blend that has 6 inches of foam on top of it, if there is foam in it in a shaker cup or in a blender, what in the world do you think that's going to do inside your body? So if you are having a protein shake or a powder and you're gassy and bloated and you smell after you've had it and you smell like what you've just eaten, you are not digesting and breaking that down. You don't need to go pay for a food sensitivity test to tell you that. You literally just need to pay attention to your body. Okay. So if I were to ask you in terms of your macronutrients, which are your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fats and your fiber, which one is the hardest for you to get in and which one is the easiest for you to get in? I personally, there's marine and there's bovine based collagen. I prefer the bovine based for where I am right now. I used to use marine a long time ago, but again, I alternate and switch up. So it doesn't really matter unless, like, if you have a sensitivity to fish, obviously you would use the bovine or vice versa. There's no flavor to it. There is no different texture. It mixes really well. I work with a lot of women. Well, I don't work with a lot of women anymore who are vegetarian and plant-based, just because I'm an omnivore. So I don't tend to attract a lot of vegetarians and vegans. But when I do, oftentimes there's a lot of gut issues going on. And that's why they've come into one of the programs, is that they have been following a certain way of eating. And listen, I was a vegetarian for years. I was a raw vegan before I was pregnant with my daughter. So I understand the philosophy and coming at it from that angle. But a lot of them will come in and have issues, but they're like, I can't chew animal product. I can't do any of that. That's where the collagen is a good place to actually begin starting to get some of that in. What about glutamine? Glutamine is very good if you have a lot of digestive issues. Although I will say that glutamine by itself, I have found less effective than actually using something that has a combination of things with it. So I'll use things like GI Revive or GI Fortify, some other products that have things like MSM and aloe in it, or marshmallow. So you're getting the L-glutamine to support the lining of the gut mucosa, but then you are also getting some of the other things that help to really calm and cool any of that inflammation down. Omnivore means I eat everything. Someone who eats plants and animals for that. Okay. Okay. So let's pull that back around in terms of like energy, adrenal things and that. So that's the first thing I would ask you, ladies, is if you feel like your adrenals are in the crapper, are you actually feeding your body enough? Do you literally feel like you're running on empty? Because you are literally running on empty. The next thing I would ask you around your adrenals is, are you actually supplementing your body? You cannot have this idea in your mind that you can get what you need just out of your food. Number one, if you have digestive issues, that theory is already in the hole. Because if you're not breaking your food down, you're not getting all of the nutrients out of it. The quality of the soil, the way that food is being grown. So I have some like basic foundationals. Again, I don't know you, so I'm not going to talk dosing, but I love for women to be on magnesium. I think magnesium is like a miracle mineral. There's many different forms of magnesium. I've done different conversations with Dr. Paul Herkel about the different forms of magnesium. I love a bisglycinate for women who are constipated. A citrate can be a very good one to bring in for them. I really do believe that women need to also be taking a good quality B complex, a methylated B complex, to support their nervous system and their adrenals. I'm a huge fan of omega-3s. I think that is also very important. And there is a lot of different ones. So a lot of women I work with actually right now, I have them on the Omega Joy, which is from Genuine Health, to help with mood and support. I might increase how much I give them leading into their menstrual cycle if they find that that's where they can really start to, kind of tank in terms of how they are feeling. And then probiotics, again, those can be a really good one to be incorporating. And if you're someone that's been using a full spectrum probiotic for a long period of time, or one that, you've just been on forever and you've never used anything that is specific as a woman, that would be a good change up. Or if you suffer from a lot of UTIs. So if you suffer from a lot of bladder infections, again, if you have a lot of bladder infections and UTIs, this is not just something going on with bacteria in the bladder. It is also connected to your gut. There is a bacterial overgrowth. And so it's not only happening in the bladder. Oftentimes it is bladder, vaginal, and gut all combined. So there is a specific probiotic you can use that is from Genuine Health that is for UTIs. So it's women's based for UTIs. I would also recommend, if you are someone who suffers from those chronic infections, as well as bacterial vaginosis and gut issues, that you do work with someone to run a GI mat test. Because there's other things that can be done to support that, to get rid of the bacteria. And you might need 2 forms of probiotic. You might need to swallow them orally, and you may need to actually use vaginal suppository probiotics as well, that you would insert the ovule like you would a tampon, so that you are inoculating the vaginal microbiome with the healthy bacteria, as well as orally getting it into the body for your actual gut. Okay. So there's a few different ways that you can work that angle with your system. And yeah, Genuine Health has great omegas. And what I love is they actually have a few different types that are targeted for different things. So you're able to actually, like I was talking about, changing things up. When you go through one bottle, you can shift and change up to another. The other thing that you can do in terms of like really delivering high energy nutrients in is like, if you have a difficult time digesting your greens, right, and getting those down in terms of raw form, you can add a greens powder into that smoothie. For some people, if digestion is that inflamed, they're going to need to use more like soups, smoothies, things that are going to be easier to digest and break down. And you would do that for a period of time until you start to reestablish the digestive function, because we want to get back to chewing our food. Okay, so that's really important to understand as well for that. Any other questions around adrenals? Because I know it can be a big topic for people. Okay, your adrenal symptoms, if you think about this, it's hard for you to wake up in the morning. It's hard for you to get a good night's sleep. You're waking between 1 and 4 in the morning and can't get back to sleep. When you're also waking in that period of time, your adrenals are impacted with that cortisol, and I guarantee you your blood sugar is being impacted as well there too. It can be very hard to sweat if you have adrenal issues. Yeah. So if you have low functioning adrenals and you don't perspire, one thing I'd recommend is increase your sodium intake. So when you get blood work done, you actually want to look at what your sodium and your potassium levels are. If you don't understand this information, work with a practitioner. I hate to say this, but nowadays it is not going to be your family doctor who's going to help you understand this. They literally just do not have the time to give you to even help you understand this, if they even understood it. It just does not work that way. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough sodium, and you have to stimulate your lymphatic system, and you've got to support those adrenals. So for women who are exhausted, to tell them to go and do a hefty workout to get sweat happening, that is actually the most inappropriate recommendation you could give them. They do not have the ability to sustain that type of output exercise-wise. So how else can we get the lymph system going? You can have her dry brush. You could have her sit in an infrared sauna. You can have her rebound. You could get her to walk outside. You could get her to gua sha. You could have her sit in an Epsom salt bath, or use magnesium flakes, which are going to help her lymph system. You could have her lie with her bum at the floor and her legs up the wall to get that inversion and get that lymph system flowing and going. So there's a lot of different things that we can do that don't necessarily have to be like we're, hitting our body over the head to try to get ourselves to create that change. You'll know that your adrenal function is improving and that your mitochondrial function is improving when you start to perspire more. Okay. So sweating is very important. Hair falling out, is that a gut issue? It is probably a combination of what's going on with your gut and what's going on with your nervous system. Okay. But I suffered massive hair loss in that last year, like from August, and it can still be hit or miss. Hair loss is a tricky one, and I'm going to tell you why. You might get, so first thing with hair loss is actually take note, are you growing new hair? Because if you're growing new hair, this is a positive sign. When women are losing hair but not growing new hair, that's a different issue. So we go through different phases. The shedding phase, in order to get your hair to stop the actual shedding phase, that takes a long time. Nobody wants to hear this, but it is typically 12 to 18 months. But is your hair growing? And this is why getting digestion on point, figuring out what's going on with your gut, feeding yourself the right nutrients so that you have new growth that is happening. There's also different things. Chinese medicine can be helpful, acupuncture, there's different herbs, but you've got to understand why. So many women are wasting so much money on so many products for their hair and supplements for that. And they're just literally closing their eyes and throwing money out at a dart wall without actually knowing why they're losing their hair in the first place. Slow down, work with someone, take the time, run the test, become more educated, know what's going on, and then start to move towards that. Thoughts on low cortisol and weightlifting. Do this cyclically. So if you have been tested and you know you have low cortisol, then I would only have you lifting, and I wouldn't have you lifting necessarily a heavy taxing load, but I would encourage you to do that in your follicular phase. So the week after your menstrual cycle, leading into around ovulation, but when you're bleeding, I would not have you lifting the weights at that period of time. And probably about 10 days out from your menstrual cycle, I would shift your load bearing movement to be with your own body weight or Pilates or yoga. So you're still getting the movement, but it's not going to be necessarily as taxing. And then as those adrenals start to recover and start to do better, then you can start to dip your toe into some of the other phases of lifting. Exhausted when I'm lifting weights, can't get any pumps. Why? Because of what you just said. You have low cortisol. You should not be going in and trying to get a pump right now. You're going to drive your nervous system into the ground. You will actually start to probably put weight on and feel more puffy and inflamed. So I don't know you personally, but just based on that little bit that you've given, I would not be in the gym trying to get gains right now. I'd be outside walking. I'd be shifting your approach. I'd be using cyclical training as well. Is that the same advice for high cortisol? I don't know which part of that advice you mean, if you're talking about the exercise side of it. If I have normal cortisol levels in my Dutch, what else could be causing chronic fatigue? I would start with your gut first, your thyroid as well. So full thyroid panel is very important, but fatigue is never one thing. So you've got to look at adrenal function. You've got to do a full thyroid panel, which is not just your TSH. I posted on Instagram what that looks like the other day. And then you probably need to take a deeper look at your gut function. Thoughts on food combining, tried to add protein and fats to smoothies, but it bothers me. So again, everyone's body is different. If you don't have a gallbladder, that definitely can be harder for you, and you would need some digestive enzymes. You might have to do some, depending on what's going on. Again, you might have to do mono things. So maybe you're fine to do like higher fat foods like olives and avocados and that with veggies, but bringing the protein in is too much for your system to digest and break down. And again, you can do protein on its own, but you cannot do the combining. So it's not something that I would say you want to do for life, but you might have to do it in the interim until you get out of kind of that acute phase. But there's definitely something going on. You might have issues with steatocrit, which means you're not digesting the fat, and that's why it's uncomfortable for you. If you have high cortisol, strength training can actually be good for cortisol, but not doing it in a HIIT form, CrossFit, Tabata, any of that. Like actually showing up and creating a level of progressive overload, choosing 3 to 5 exercises, pick 3 to 5 sets, stay within like an 8 to 12 rep range, and slow controlled focus on what you're doing. But you're not going in and supersetting and doing it quick, because again, you're just going to jack that cortisol higher. Okay. All right. So in terms of the level of stress that your body is feeling, this is where I will finish up on this. Because everybody always asks, how do I manage my stress? You've all heard of different things that you can do in terms of getting outside for a walk, meditation, breath work. I think that what we need to be doing right now is I think that we really, truly need to be tapping in and asking ourselves, what do you need right now? For a lot of you who came into tonight's class, and a lot of you who are on this journey of learning with me, what you feel like you need right now is actually to understand more. A lot of women are meeting their bodies for the first time. A lot of you are in a situation now where health has always been something where it's like, yeah, I want to have good health. But in the last year and a half, it's like, no, like I need now to really focus on my health for various reasons. And like I said, there's so much noise and it can be hard to understand what's going on. That's where you may need to actually work with someone. That's where you can come into different programs. I teach many different programs. I have a program that is starting October 13th, I believe, with Genuine Health. That's 4 weeks. It is very low entry in terms of investment. And I break things down week by week. I show you some of the different tests. I tell you, you need to know what to ask when you're going to work with someone as well, whether it's your family doctor or it's a naturopath that you're working with. You understanding what to ask is so important. And it's also understanding what you're seeing. If you don't ever get your blood work when you leave an appointment, you don't have hard copies of your results, you don't understand the results of what's going on in your body, what was the point in getting the test in the first place? Remember when I was talking about the partnership? You have to be willing to play an active role in your health. Going to an appointment, letting someone else tell you what's going on, them not giving you the results, and then you just walking out not feeling like you understand anything more clearly. You've played a passive role, not an active role in that relationship. And I always think about this and talk to people about this from like the perspective of a mom. There was something going on with one of your kids, whether it was their learning environment at school, their health when you're in a doctor's office. There's no bloody way that you would just be like, not ask more questions and be like, okay, that's fine. Like they know better, and just listen and be quiet. No freaking way would you ever do that if it was about your kid, if it was about your spouse, if it was anybody else in your life that was feeling any of the symptoms that you are, any of the struggles that you have going on. You would fight. You would muster up whatever energy you have left, and you would show up in that capacity for them. Why aren't you doing that for you? Literally, what is holding you back? Do you know what most women will answer with? I am just so tired. That's why. Or I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to cause trouble. If you're feeling out of balance in your body, that is trouble. That's trouble for you. And you have to be willing to be an advocate for yourself. There is no one who is coming to do this for you. You have to ask questions. You have to be willing to ruffle feathers. You have to be willing to use your voice even when it's shaking. You have to be willing to go to somebody else. You have to be willing to stand up on your own 2 feet. You have to be willing to know that as a woman, you were literally born with divine feminine superpowers that has connected you to every single cell and morsel of your body. And we give it away all the time. You got to take it back. You have to take it back. And it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been going through something. You start right now. You've already done it. You showed up here tonight. So if you want to go deeper, choose for you what the deeper looks like. Is it listening to this again? Is it joining me for 4 weeks in October? We jam on this. We go deep. And again, I am not doing slideshows. I am not presenting you graphics. We are going to talk and break it down week by week. Maybe you need to have actual functional testing. Maybe that's the hormone. There's so many different things. But all I'm going to say to you coming away from this tonight is, don't let this be the last thing. Like, let this be the thing that just wakes something up in you. We are going through a series of emotions right now as women where we've been handed a shit storm to deal with. Okay? We can argue that every human being has been right now, but as women, we have a disproportionate responsibility in our lives right now for our families, for our jobs that might be in jeopardy, for our bodies, for everything as a whole. And we are used to being the fixers. We are used to being able to figure the thing out and to come up with a solution. And for a lot of us right now, we are feeling like our back is up against the wall and we don't know what to do. And we have to go through this process of, there's an awakening that happens where we start to realize and recognize what might actually be going on either in your own body or in your life or in the world. And you go through the phase of being like, WTAF, what's happening? You go through being mad, you go through being sad, and then you have to allow yourself to go through a grieving process as well too of what you thought was. You have to go through a grieving process of, it's not fair what's happening right now, and this is not the way it was supposed to be. I'm working with moms and women every day in my team and in my life and in my family who are beside themselves because their kids worked so hard to try and get into a program and it's not possible, whose kids can't play their sports right now, whose jobs are being jeopardized, whose spouses are being threatened with work, all these different things. We internalize, internalize, internalize. One way you can take your power back is by taking your health back. How strong can you be if you don't feel good? That is what resiliency means. That is what I am here for. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm never going to be the practitioner for someone to come and work with who wants them to just like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to be disingenuous. I'm not going to paint a picture of like what is when it's not. I will always be honest. I will always be genuine. I will always show up in a way that maybe sometimes is like, oh gosh, but it's who I am. And I'm never going to compromise my integrity or that for anything. And those are the women I want to work with. I want to work with the women who want to rise up in their health because we need you and your families need you and you need you. Okay. So I want you to sit on this tonight and think about what you need to do for your health, for yourself, for your body. Okay. How do I feel about taking melatonin? I love it if you need it. Melatonin is produced in the lining of your gut and some behind the eyes in the pineal gland. One of the best things that you can do to support your melatonin is support digestion and get off your devices at night. Get off your devices at night. You're literally depleting your melatonin when you do that. And if you need melatonin, and we do test for that, if you do need it, rarely do I find it works when you take it by itself. Typically, most people need to have some support of L-theanine or 5-HTP, something like that in order to help. It might help you fall asleep, but it may not make you stay asleep, or the opposite can happen for some people. And it's something, it's safe, it's very safe. And melatonin is very helpful for the immune system as well. So you can start with a low dose and try it, and you can see how it feels for your body. And when I say low dose, like 1 to 3 milligrams. If you're taking 5 and 10 and more than that, you're probably going to wake up feeling hungover and groggy. More is not better. If you want to join up for the October program, Melissa, Piper actually posted it down there. We'll also include that for you when we send out the recording as well. And if you're also sitting here and you're just like you have that feeling of like, I need to do something, I don't know what it is, you can also reach out at any time and you can book a call with one of the wellness advisors on my team. Here's the thing, like I said, we will always be honest. And sometimes you just need someone to hold the space and to talk to you and just say, what is it that's going on? What's been going on with your body? What have you tried? Where do you need support? And we'll let you know if we offer something. And if we don't, I have the most amazing network of colleagues. If I can't help you with something, I guarantee you I know somebody who can. And that is the other thing, ladies. You need to start to work on you, and then you need to become an ambassador for other women in your life. Your daughters that are watching, their friends, your sisters, your nieces, your granddaughters, all the people that are around you, your coworkers. Stop keeping it inside. Start to become an ambassador by sharing it. We need to understand as women that we are never alone in how we feel or what it is that's going on. You need community. You need it now more than ever. Okay. So that's what we're going to build. So if you are going to join me, awesome. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks because that's crazy. It's October on Friday. September was like that. Yes, you can absolutely share this recording. 100%. You can share this recording with whoever you want to. Okay. What melatonin is a good spray? I don't love melatonin sprays. I really like Natural Factors sublingual melatonin. Honestly, it's super inexpensive. It's literally $9.99. And you can get it in 1 milligram or 3 milligram. I really love Tranquil Sleep. And that has the L-theanine and 5-HTP in it. You can try 2 chewables before bed. Okay. And again, like there's no contraindications with either of those 2 things. So you can try them, but low dose, and then just see how you feel. What do I recommend for shift workers? You have to reverse engineer based on what your schedule is. So the number one thing for a shift worker, you have to stabilize your blood sugar and stay hydrated. So you can't think of things like calling them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It just has to be like meal 1, meal 2. When it comes to your sleep, you need to have blackout blinds. You need to have a sleep mask. I would say as like one of the most inexpensive tools as a woman you could have for yourself. If you don't own a sleep mask, go and purchase yourself a sleep mask. It's going to cost you less than $15. It can literally change your life. Literally. In terms of your sleep. Okay. You are so welcome, Keely. Yeah, CBD can work for some women for sure. So I found it helped with my deep sleep. The timing of the day matters. Some women, if they take CBD at night, it can actually rev them up depending on what's going on in their body. So they do better taking it in the morning, and it gives them like an even kind of sense of energy throughout the day. Not so much me. If I were to take it during the day, I'd feel a little bit too relaxed. And so I take it in the evening often. I'll definitely take it tonight because I've been teaching and I'm in front of devices and it's getting dark outside. So that's going against my own body's rhythm. So I'll take Eaton Hemp CBD oil tonight, and I probably will have 2 chewable Tranquil Sleep, just so that, because here's what's happening right now. We're in front of screens at night and your body is like, the day is still happening. We have light in our face. Cortisol should still be staying produced. No. So now we need to get off the devices. We need to get into darker, dimmer light. We need to start to unwind and do the things to let our body know that rest is coming. You need to take your magnesium tonight as well too. Okay. Tranquil Sleep is, no, Natural Factors is the company. Tranquil Sleep is what it's called, Kara. Could the CBD ointment for inflammation at night affect your sleep? Anything can. This is what I've learned working with the human body for 24 years. Anything can. What works for one person is not necessarily going to work for the other. So how would you know? Stop using the ointment at night and see if your sleep improves. I love blue light blockers. Both of mine are upstairs. One is not here at my desk. I have ones that I wear when I have a long day on the computer that block out about 50, 60%. And then I have very ugly amber color runs that block out most of it that I wear if I'm reading in bed at night. How much vitamin D can we absorb? Again, all depends on the body, and all that absorption from a supplement is going to take place in the small intestine. So for women who have low D, low B12, low iron, you've got to look at gut function. You can supplement until you're blue in the face. If you have gut issues, you're not going to absorb it, and you can actually cause more issues by over supplementing with those things. 400 milligrams of magnesium is not actually too much. And again, I don't know you, Michelle, but therapeutically dosing, you are going to typically do 5 times your body weight in milligrams. And it depends on what type of magnesium that you're using. So 400 milligrams for a typical bisglycinate is going to be 2 capsules. And that is generally like a very low dose amount, right? So it's typically going to be okay. If you have chronic tiredness and you feel it's in the back of your eyes, in a sense, what does that indicate? I don't know. That could just mean you're exhausted. There's also the tone of the spine, right? So like if you don't get chiropractic or osteopathy, if you're burning the candle at both ends, if you're spending a lot of time in front of the screen, if your eyes are exhausted and burning, it could be that. Magnesium has made a huge difference in my menstrual cramps. Yeah, I'm telling you, magnesium is involved in over 800 different functions in your body every single day. Every single day. It's also a cofactor in so many other things that are happening in the cells of your body and enzymatic action. So it's a really important one. And when we're under stress, magnesium and B vitamins, gone. We just blow right through them. Okay. Helps you stay asleep. Yeah, it definitely can. So magnesium is not a sedative. Magnesium is just a relaxing mineral. So it can just help the nervous system just kind of drop it down a notch. Okay, ladies, we have actually gone 20 minutes over. That's not shocking if you've joined me before, because I love to spend time with you all, but it is 10 to 9 where most of you are. I am going to hop off now. I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight and staying with me for as long as you did. Give us about 48 hours to get the recording out. Just take some time to flip it around, and we'll include some of the different links and notes that we talked about. And then send me a message. I'd love to hear your feedback. Reach out to me on Instagram at Jen Pike. It's where I spend most of my time. You can also feel free to reach out via email at hello@JenPike. And again, I just want to say thank you all so much. And I hope to spend some time with you in the next couple of weeks, going a little bit deeper on this. Take care, everyone.